Have you ever met a man who looked like a blessing, but left your spirit restless? Welcome to the chosen path, the place where we don't just talk about faith, we walk in divine discernment. In this episode, we're going deep. Deeper than charm, deeper than feelings, deeper than surface-level signs, because sometimes the very person you're praying for is the one God is trying to protect you from. And if you're a chosen one, make no mistake, not every man can walk the path God has designed for you. So stay close, stay open, stay discerning, because by the end of this video, you won't just see the red flags, you'll understand why God showed them to you in the first place. He doesn't need to raise his voice to shake your soul. His presence alone brings unrest. You find yourself constantly second-guessing your worth, your thoughts, your emotions, all in the name of being understanding. But God's presence brings peace, not panic, and anyone sent by him will echo that same peace. There's a heaviness in your spirit, and you can't explain it. The conversations feel like a battlefield. The silences feel suffocating. You walk away from every moment with him feeling more anxious than anchored. This isn't love. It's spiritual turbulence disguised as connection. Your prayer life begins to fade. Your joy quietly leaves. You stop dancing. You stop dreaming. And worst of all, you stop recognizing yourself. If his arrival in your life coincides with your emotional decline, God is not in that equation. He may not be abusive, but he's exhausting. It's the subtle emotional fatigue that tells you something's off. God doesn't always shout. Sometimes he warns you through your weariness. When your soul feels tired around someone, pay attention. God gives peace that surpasses understanding. When your heart is no longer still, when your days feel like a storm, it's not God asking you to endure. It's him gently asking you to let go. He knows the language of the Spirit, but not the life of it. He can quote scriptures, but fails to live them. He'll say, "God bless you," while manipulating your emotions. His words are smooth, but his walk is crooked. This is not discernment. This is deception covered in religious wrapping. His compliments are calculated. He flatters to gain favor. He studies your vulnerabilities and plays to them, not to protect you, but to position himself. And if you're not rooted in truth, his charm will look like spiritual chemistry. When you look closely, you'll see no fruit of the Spirit, no kindness, no humility, no consistency. He's all fireworks and no fire, temporary heat, no lasting light. And yet, he keeps you hoping for something deeper that never comes. You defend him to your friends, excuse him to yourself, and justify him to God. But deep down, you know, it's not alignment, it's infatuation. It's not destiny, it's distraction. You've confused charisma for character, but now your spirit is waking up. God is not silent in your confusion. He's showing you the gap between this man's words and his actions. And that gap, it's not going to close, because words can lie, but fruit never does. At first, it seems innocent, a playful comment, a just joking remark. But soon, you realize your no doesn't matter to him. He pushes, presses, and pries until you give in. What begins as charm turns into control. God gave you boundaries for a reason, to protect your body, your heart, and your calling. Every time you try to speak up, he flips the script. He makes you feel guilty for guarding yourself. He calls you too sensitive, too cold, too spiritual. But the truth is, he's not frustrated with your boundaries. He's frustrated that he can't manipulate them. Little by little, you feel yourself shrinking, saying less, laughing less, compromising more. And all the while, You're convincing yourself this is growth. But in reality, you're losing yourself to keep a man who doesn't respect the God in you. God will never send a man who dishonors your convictions. A real man of God doesn't test your purity. He protects it. He doesn't challenge your standards. He honors them. If a man fights your boundaries, he's not from heaven. He's sent to tear down what God helped you build. When someone treats your limits like obstacles, not guardrails, you are not safe. Love doesn't demand access without reverence. And God is warning you. It's not control disguised as concern. It's spiritual danger dressed as affection. He entered your life like a wave, powerful, exciting, overwhelming. And in the beginning, it felt like a divine encounter. But now, your focus is fractured. Your passion has dimmed. The fire you had before he came? Gone. Purpose doesn't die instantly. It gets silenced slowly. You used to pray in the morning. Now you text him first. You used to plan and dream. Now you wait for his calls. You used to move with clarity. Now you hesitate, second-guess, procrastinate. This is not what alignment looks like. This is spiritual erosion. You start making excuses. I'll get back to it next week. This is just a phase. But weeks become months, and your soul starts starving. You feed a relationship that costs you your assignment. That is not love. That is a spiritual thief. God called you for more. He didn't bring you this far to bury your gifts under someone else's validation. The man God sends will ignite your mission, not distract from it. He will encourage your growth, not compete with your purpose. When someone pulls you away from the things that make you whole, listen carefully. That man may be attractive, but he's not anointed for your destiny. God's warning is clear. Anything that dims your light is not divine. Let him go before your purpose becomes a memory. He knows what to say to sound holy. He uses spiritual language like a costume, wearing it just enough to earn your trust. He'll pray when you're watching. He'll mention God in his texts, but when no one's looking, there's no fire behind the words. His faith is not devotion, it's a strategy. He follows you to church, not because he seeks God, but because he seeks you. His interest in your faith is shallow, performative, and selective. He mirrors your beliefs only to gain favor, but refuses to be transformed by them. You're not walking beside a believer, you're dragging a pretender. You sense it deep down. The disconnect, the inconsistency. He says all the right things, but lives none of them. When you speak about conviction, he shifts the topic. When you set spiritual boundaries, he calls them extreme. He doesn't want God to guide you. He wants control disguised as partnership. God is not mocked. Discernment isn't judgment. It's protection. The spirit within you is trying to warn you. This man isn't pursuing the kingdom. He's invading your temple. And if you ignore the warning, you'll give sacred access to someone unqualified to carry your heart. Not every man who holds a Bible has a covenant with God, and not every man who mentions Jesus is led by him. You need more than agreement. You need alignment. Because real faith doesn't just speak, it shows. You thought you had moved on, that you had grown, matured, healed. But then he came, and suddenly the past reopened. Old insecurities resurfaced. Old fears came crawling back. His words, his absence, his rejection, they didn't just hurt. They reawakened something. And that's not coincidence. That's a sign. Every conversation feels like emotional déjà vu. You cry the same tears you thought you'd never cry again. You doubt yourself in the same ways you swore you wouldn't. And now, Instead of progressing, you're reliving. You're not in a relationship. You're in a rewind. God doesn't bring people to drag you back into old chains. If someone's presence reactivates your trauma more than your healing, he's showing you the assignment, not the anointing. This man wasn't sent to love you. He was allowed to reveal what still needs to be released. You start blaming yourself. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'm still broken. But the truth is, your healing was real. Your growth was real. What's false is the man who triggered the wound. His presence doesn't mean you're still broken. It means he's not safe for your wholeness. Sometimes the enemy doesn't show up as temptation. He shows up as repetition. The same pattern, different face. God is warning you. Don't go through this cycle again. You don't need to prove you're healed by enduring what hurt you. He doesn't ask. He demands. What begins as concern slowly becomes domination. What he calls care feels more like a cage. He wants to know where you are, what you wear, who you're with. And if you push back, he calls you disloyal. This isn't love. It's silent suffocation. You start changing little things to avoid his reactions. You shrink your joy to fit inside his comfort. You silence your thoughts to keep the peace. This is not partnership. This is control, wrapped in possessiveness. And over time, you stop recognizing yourself in the mirror. Control never comes all at once. It's incremental. It disguises itself as attention, then shifts into obsession. First, it flatters you. Then, it isolates you. Before you know it, you're alone, even in the relationship. And God did not create you to be spiritually imprisoned. A man led by God doesn't need to control you. He covers you, leads with humility, and honors your freedom. Love never manipulates. Love never isolates. The Spirit of God brings liberty, not bondage. God is trying to break the chains before they tighten. He's whispering through the unease, the tension, the guilt you feel when you simply want to breathe. This man isn't your protector. He's your captor, and the longer you stay, the more you'll lose. He answers to no one. He resists correction. He spins every confrontation into an attack. When he's wrong, he deflects. When he's confronted, he vanishes. A man who walks without covering walks into destruction and drags others with him. You've seen it. The way he avoids mentors, dodges spiritual authority, mocks wise counsel. He thinks submission is weakness and accountability is control. But God never designed a man to lead without being led. Rebellion isn't strength. It's pride in disguise. You find yourself taking the weight. You pray for both. You apologize first. You bend so the relationship won't break. But he never bends. He never seeks advice, never says, "I was wrong." And in the end, you're not building a relationship. You're surviving a dictatorship. A man submitted to God is teachable. He welcomes guidance. He seeks wisdom. And most of all, he owns his actions. But this man, he hides behind independence. He confuses freedom with ego. And God is showing you, this is not leadership. It's spiritual danger. If a man can't be corrected, he cannot be trusted. If he resents accountability, he will never grow. And if you ignore this, you'll be yoked to someone who refuses to evolve. While you're praying for revival, God is warning you now. Before pride becomes your prison, he admires your beauty, your softness, your presence, but not your anointing. He wants your love, but not your light. Your affection, but not your assignment. He fell in love with your strength, yet tries to tame it. That's not divine partnership. That's spiritual sabotage. Every time you talk about your dreams, he goes silent. When you shine, he shrinks back. When God opens a door for you, he questions it. He doesn't say it outright, but his tone tells you, stay small, stay safe, stay next to me. But God never asked you to dim your fire for anyone's comfort. You start second-guessing your calling. You wonder if you're too much. You water down your voice. You postpone your purpose. And slowly, you become a background character in a story God wrote with you as the lead. This man doesn't walk with you. He pulls you off course. The man God sends won't feel threatened by your purpose. He'll protect it. He will pray over your calling, speak life into your mission, and stand beside you when the spiritual warfare comes. He doesn't compete with your anointing, he covers it. If he only wants the version of you that's convenient, not called, you're not his partner. You're his possession. And God is whispering, you were made for more. Don't hand your calling to someone who won't carry it with reverence. Since he entered your life, your spiritual fire has started to fade. Your prayer life is weaker. Your hunger for God has dimmed. You feel distracted, distant, detached. This isn't coincidence. This is a shift in alignment. And when the connection costs you your Creator, it's not love. It's sabotage. He doesn't discourage you outright, but his presence slowly replaces God's. You stop seeking divine confirmation and start leaning on his opinion. Your decisions, once soaked in prayer, are now filtered through his approval. That's not covering, that's spiritual compromise. He may not pull you into sin, but he pulls you into self. He becomes your focus, your center, your idol, and you don't even notice. What began as affection has now become distraction, and anything that steals your gaze from God, no matter how charming, is dangerous. God is jealous for your attention, not because he's controlling, but because he's your source. And when someone pulls you away from that source, you begin to lose clarity, energy, and peace. Your spirit dries up, and your discernment goes quiet. That's not romance. That's ruin. The right man will draw you deeper into the presence of God. He will challenge your faith, not compete with it. He will pray with you, not replace your prayer. God isn't silent. He's calling you back. The question is, will you answer, or will you keep ignoring the warning? If you've made it this far, your spirit is not asleep, it's awakened. God doesn't expose to shame you. He exposes to protect you. And maybe, just maybe, this was his way of saying, daughter, I see you. I'm still guiding you. You are not alone. Sometimes the hardest people to walk away from are the very ones God never meant for us to hold on to. But remember, being chosen doesn't just mean being set apart. It means being set above the traps the enemy tries to dress as love. I want to hear from you. What part of this message hit your spirit the deepest? Which warning felt like God was speaking directly to you? Comment below and write, The Chosen Path. Let me know you stayed with me until the very end, and that you're ready to walk in discernment, strength, and divine clarity. May your next yes be your best yes.